early, so we're just waiting for 10 o'clock. Just had to get my camera shot ready. Thank you for joining me, and if you're here early, thank you, thank you. Just a few things before we get started. Be sure that if you're not watching from YouTube, if you want to type in the chat, that you make sure that you go over to YouTube, and so that you can type in the chat, hit share, subscribe, and all that good stuff, and help get the word out. And we'll get started in just a minute. I think all my links are working today. I was gonna knit while I was doing my show, y'all, if you weren't with me yesterday. And I was like, no, I can't because I can't knit purl and keep up. So maybe I'll try it before we get started and see if I can do this. Still got a couple of more minutes before we get started. So I'm gonna wait so we don't leave anybody out. So if you knit, then you know that like when you do a stretchy thingy, you have to go knit, purl, knit, purl. And the way it works is do one, and you have to bring it to the front and do the other one. And I suddenly realized while I was doing it, I was like, wait, I can't do this. I'm going to mess up my glove. Let's see, maybe if I get into the swing of it, I could do it. Because it just kind of is calming and it helps you to, like, it's like a distraction for the brain, you know? So if I could do it, it would be really awesome. I don't think I can now. I focus too. I'll be sitting here talking and I'll probably have my tongue out like while I'm trying so hard to focus so I don't do it the wrong way. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I'm making some hand warmers though for my mom. See, they're cute. I'll show them to you guys when I'm done. I'll post them online. Got like 2 more minutes. Tonight's going to be tough, guys. I'm going to try my best not to cry like a baby. I know if I do, y'all won't hold it against me. Got 1 minute. Do y'all still use electronic pencils? Like the kind that, you know, you have to put the lead in? I love these. I mean, I like pencils in general, period, but I especially love the kind like this. One of my favorite things. I think I have some on my Amazon page if you like them too. They're kind of hard to find in the store now. I mean, good ones are, like with a number two, lead, like a regular pencil. Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I am Andrea Raquel, the social entrepreneur and sugar-free coach, and this is hashtag AITM, Andrea in the morning. Did you know? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. This is day 3 of Did You Know? It is the book release for my new book that's coming out that's called Living Sugar-Free Revealed. It is it's a memoir slash autobiography slash self-help. Call it whatever you want to call it. I don't care. I probably broke all the rules, and that's okay. Thank you so much to all my Living Sugar-Free sweethearts for joining me. If this is your first time or your first day joining us, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing. I have some notes to keep me on track because if you know your sugar-free coach, you know that I tend to go on a little bit on tangents, but I do know how to follow a script. So the book, as I said, is called Living Sugar-Free Revealed, and because I'm finally sharing my story with the world, that's why it's called that. And I blog a lot and I share a lot that, information, tips, how-tos, and stuff like that on a regular basis. But this book is really more about my story and, where I came from, how I went from being the first female voice of the 3rd Infantry, flash forward all these 20 years to being the sugar-free coach. Actually, it starts from birth and being born abroad. But I decided that over the next 10 days, well, now we're down to 8, that I'm going to share some behind the scenes tips and information and give you some insight about the worlds that I came from the military world and the Army to banking and finance to real estate, as well as some of the life lessons and experiences that I've learned along the way, as well as social media and technology, as well as building a business, specifically a not-for-profit business. And I've helped build a few different other businesses and building a network, being a social media influencer, dating, relationships, marriage and divorce, and all that good stuff. And so we're on day 3 now. So the very first day was an introduction. The second day we dove into chapter 1 and 2, and then today we're going to do 3 and 4. Probably not exactly in that order because technically it's 9 days and there are 17 sections. So I broke them up how they were relevant. So not only are you going to get some behind the scenes tips and information, but if you are walking with me on this 10-day journey, you are also going to get one of the first signed copies. So I'm going to share with you how you can do that. And let's see. Oh, and I don't want to forget to tell you, if you are watching from Facebook or LinkedIn. I don't really know if you can, or even if those links work. But if you are watching from there, if you want to type in the chat, make sure you come to YouTube so you can see the chat box. Hi, my darling, wonderful business leader. I really want to get questions. If you have questions, I want to be able to answer your questions because, I know I'm covering a lot, but it's all related. I've seen a lot of, in my speakers groups and just from some different classes and things I've participated in through helping entrepreneurs over the years. I've heard people say, I've heard advisors say, and I've also heard the people who are concerned about it, this big thing about, you have to focus, you have to narrow down your lane and narrow down your scope and all that. And, I can't stress enough, if you're on this journey and if you're trying to build a business, if you're a speaker, if you've, come across my page because you're maybe in one of my speakers groups, don't, go and tell them that I contradicted what they said, because I'm not trying to discount anybody's advice or anything. That's good general advice. Some people are average, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Some people have basic, everyday, ordinary lives. They haven't been through much. They don't have some dramatic story to tell. And if that advice is good for you and you can focus in on one thing and do one thing really well, then great, do that. But don't let it be a barrier to entry for you because your life has taken all kinds of twists and turns, and the very nature of who you are is very dynamic and diverse. Don't feel like you can't be yourself and you can't be excellent in whatever the areas are that you are called to be excellent in. That's just not fair. You know, if you're an expert at three things, don't let somebody tell you that you can't talk about three things. That's not true. It's just not. I mean, bottom line is if somebody wants me to come and speak about veterans, I can come and speak about veterans. If someone wants me to come and speak about social media, I can come and I can speak about social media. If someone wants me to come and speak about autism or women's issues and inclusion, I can speak about those things. But here's the difference. Here's the level set. I am very, very true to who I am. You know, the things that I teach and the things that I speak on, they come from real life experience. So it's not something that I have to go and study up on and research on, or, oh, well, I have to take this hat off and put this one on because I'm going to speak on a different topic. No, you know, it's real life, true life experiences. And especially if you're, a spectrum person, if you're like a Aspie and your brain kind of like is one of those minority brains that does like 20 different things at one time, you have a gift. You have a unique ability to be able to do a bunch of different things. And so don't let anybody take that away from you. That's all I'm going to say about that. So tonight is going to be covering, I think I'm on chapters 3 and 4, but if you get the book, don't, think that I was lying or anything. I'm not trying to because I don't have it in front of me. And I didn't want to do it that way because I don't want to, read from the book or, tell you everything or accidentally tell you what the chapters are because I would. Y'all know I would accidentally say some stuff I'm not supposed to say. So I don't have it in front of me. But I just have my notes in front of me where I broke down each section and some tangible, actionable items that people can do if they happen to fall into some of the, situations, obstacles, scenarios that I've experienced. I know it's real life. If I had known that the Me Too movement was going to be what it is now, I probably would have been talking about my experiences in the Army a long time ago. Not that I was trying to be hush hush about it. It's just like I always say, I never know stuff is a big deal until somebody tells me it's a big deal. I'm just doing my best to go through what, I'm going through. And I try to overcome things and, keep a positive attitude and, overcome the pain and whatever else I'm supposed to do. Because one of the greatest quotes that I love is the one that says that life is only 20% what happens to you and 80% what you make of it. So I'm an Aspie. So if you tell me something and it's like a logical, thing, then I'm going to believe it. But if it's something that I believe, then I'm going to go on it. Like, you can't talk me off of it. So, just, don't think that I'm, trying to sit high and look low. I have empathy for everyone's situation. If you're going through something really hard, I don't mean to make it seem like it's just easy, just get over it. That's not what I mean to say. You should absolutely take the time to grieve if you need to grieve. You should take the time to heal when you need to heal. If you experience heartbreak or death or loss or abuse or whatever it is, you have to, what I like to tell people, you have to lean into the pain because you really, if you get over it without leaning into the pain, then you really didn't get over it. What you did was just kind of cover it up with some other stuff. And that's never a good thing. You don't want to use external things to mask pain. And what that looks like is excessive eating. Excuse me, I'm trying to be proactive this evening so that my throat doesn't get dry ahead of time. You don't want to, you don't want to do that. It looks like overeating. It looks like alcoholism and drug abuse and drug addiction and self-abuse and, ultimately maybe even suicide. That's what it looks like when people are forced to just, quote, get over things. The pain doesn't go away unless you deal with the pain. But pain can be turned into something else. It doesn't mean that you're not going to still feel it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to, still shed a tear every now and then, or something might happen that reminds you of what you've been through or whatever. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a robot after that. Some of us are more robotic than others. People think I don't cry. I cry a lot, y'all. I don't cry a lot, though, because of what I've been through. I cry a lot just because I'm a crybaby. I cry on commercials. Ooh, there was a commercial on TV today that made me jerk a tear. What was it? I wish I could remember what it was. Oh, it was a makeup commercial, y'all. And sometimes I'll see commercials and they'll get me all sappy and all choked up. And then I'm mad when I see what it's a commercial for, because I'm like, it would have been better if it had been like a, nonprofit commercial, or just like just like a community service announcement. But y'all was selling makeup. And it was like they were singing my song, don't you know you're beautiful just the way you are. I don't claim to be able to sing, so please don't, make a big deal out of that. Feel free to laugh. But I love that song, because you are beautiful. We are all beautiful. We were all created. God does not make mistakes. And there's somebody for everybody. I don't care. You might have one eyeball right in the middle of your forehead, and you are a cyclops, and I don't even know if they really exist as, like in fairy tales, but if they do, and if that's what you look like, you're beautiful. I have seen, perfect example. If you watch Star Trek, or like Star Wars, or like any of those like fanciful fairy tale type shows, sometimes they put characters on those movies that are like totally, quote, humanoid, not what normal everyday humans look like. And sometimes they're attractive. Y'all, don't tell me that don't tell me that if you're a woman, you did not think that the Beast from Beauty and the Beast was attractive. That man was a heartthrob to some women. And, like on Star Wars and Star Trek, there's like heartthrob, quote unquote, humanoids. So it doesn't matter how you look as a human. If you're tall or short, or, got one leg shorter than the other, or whatever it is that you look like, your skin is not perfectly smooth, or you're darker than what, whatever other people are, or you're lighter, or whatever the thing is, you're beautiful to somebody that's going to find you attractive. So there's somebody out here for everybody. And, even if you sometimes might be beautiful according to society standards, and everybody tells you all the time you could be a model, that doesn't mean you're not going to be alone for a long time. So, we have got a really, really bad stigma in our society that makes people sometimes feel like they're not worthy and not good enough. And it's just not true. So just let that go. And we're going to talk about some things, but I just wanted to put that out there. So if you're dealing with some of the things that I'm going to talk about, just know that just because I'm talking about moving past it, giving you ways to get over it, that I'm not discounting the pain that you've been through. And that's part of the reason that I wrote this book and why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because sometimes in my aspy way of being so very matter of fact and dry or whatever, people think that I'm not empathetic to their situation, or I can't relate, or my life was so easy. And that's why we called it Did You Know? So if you're new, if you haven't been with us for the first 2 days, and this is your first day joining us, did you know that there is a military unit in the Army called the Old Guard, and it is the Presidential Honor Guard. It's the Army's elite unit. It was the first Army unit. It's the oldest Army unit there is in the U.S. Army unit, and it was founded a long, long time ago. And I'm not going to give you the history because I don't remember it all. I read from the script, even though I had to memorize them, y'all. That's not one of the things that's stuck in my memory, partially because maybe the experience was a little traumatic. But you can go on C-SPAN. Actually, go to my website. That way you don't have to look for it on C-SPAN. You can go to my website, sugarfreecoaching.com, and you can click where it says Andrea Raquel on the drop down, and it says Sugar Free Wiki, and there's all my links to everything that's on the internet from my time at the 3rd Infantry. And there's some really amazing history stuff over there. The articles and the videos are really awesome. If you like military pageantry, if you're kind of sappy like me, I love that kind of stuff. I jerk a tear when they play the Army song and all that stuff. But you can watch those videos, and there's a video on C-SPAN that I did for the 50th anniversary of the integration of the armed forces, which is really very, very touching and relevant to me, as a Black female, because, women, but also minorities, Black people, Hispanics, and whatever, all different types of Caucasian Americans were not always allowed to be in the military, or weren't acknowledged to be allowed to be in the military, because, as I said a few nights ago, women were serving in the military before they were allowed, and Black folk were serving in the military before they were allowed. So this is the actual 50th anniversary of the presidential decree that allowed the armed forces to be integrated and have anyone could join, and you were no longer not allowed. So it's really an awesome video, because I get to outline the history of all of the different military units: the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. And it's just really amazing and touching. And if you're not touched by things like that, you should be, because people, veterans fought and served, and some died, and some are disabled to protect our freedoms. But they have for a very, very long time. And so I think sometimes, in our society, it's like we get so caught up in so much stuff in our society. Oh my gosh, I saw a post on Twitter or LinkedIn or somewhere, and it was a meme, and it's kind of a slap in the face, but whatever, it's true. It said that some people can't tell you, what did it say? Something like, some people can't tell you something pressing about what's going on in the world, but they can tell you every episode of, their favorite TV show. I went to go see my brother-in-law speak the other day, and he said that some people, can't tell you, and this is, of course, institutionalization, but some people can't tell you about their case, in prison, but they can tell you every episode of their favorite soap opera, So there are things in our society that are designed to keep you distracted, so that you don't pay attention to certain things. But also, too, we are easily caught up, So take your time and go over and watch this video and learn a little bit about the history of the armed forces. And then maybe you'll have a little bit more empathy, I guess, for veterans. And if you are a veteran, thank you for your service. If you're part of a military family, thank you for your service. If you're currently serving, thank you for your service. And we talked a lot last night about that. And if you go back and watch that, felt like I was rambling. I always feel like I'm rambling. Speakers never think that they did as well as other people did. So if you are considering this journey, doing a show or being a speaker or anything like that, don't think that just because I get on camera and I look like I'm good, or you see people on stage, we're always nervous. We always, feel jitters. And, even somebody in my family who's been a pastor for like 30, 40, whatever, however long years, she said she still gets nervous when she gets on stage. And most people that I talk to say the same thing. Very few people don't, very few people don't feel nervous. I'm going to kind of venture to say that maybe if you don't get nervous at all, maybe you're kind of like on your own agenda. I'm sorry to say that, but if you really, really have like a passion to like really, really be the change and be used for good, and you really care to make sure that you're sharing the right information with people, you should be a little nervous, because it's a huge burden, and I don't take it lightly. And most other people that I know don't take it lightly. So yeah, that's why, even though, sometimes we might have a script, we don't necessarily go by it. That's why I tell you to type questions in the chat room, because it's more important that I get you what you need than it is that I just say whatever it is that I want to say. So with all that said, tonight we're talking about death and loss and family illness. Not something I want to talk about, y'all, but it's a reality, and it's a real part of my life. The chapter is called, well, to be honest with you, I don't really remember what it's called exactly, but it's something to the effect of, well, there's that saying that like the good die young. Well, it's interesting to me, because I've had like people since the time I was like 14, I've had people die that were close to me. And that's why sometimes like I'll be talking to people and they think I'm kind of casual about death. Like when I talk about like when I talk to some people and I tell them like if I die, y'all better throw a party. If I, if I die, y'all have a funeral and people are like acting a fool, y'all let my crazy family come and act like, oh, she's gone and trying to clown y'all. I'm coming back to haunt all of y'all. And some people can't take me talking like that. They're like, don't talk like that. And I'm like, why? Folk die. Any of us could get hit by a car tomorrow. Some really major disaster could, I mean, there's a lot going on in the world. Some major disaster could happen in the United States any day now. So I'm just kind of, I guess, desensitized a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if it's my aspy brain that makes me dry. I told y'all a story about my friend whose son, when she was going into the hospital to have a surgery, and he was like, well, if she dies, does that mean I get to take over her estate? And they were like, oh, you can't believe, well, he's aspy. So can't really expect him to be all emotional. It doesn't mean that when people cry, when people die, I don't cry. Make sure I'm not lying. Hold on. You know what? Of all the people that I'm talking about that have died in my life, did I cry? Yeah, no. Well, you know what? It depends. It doesn't so much depend, like if I cried when somebody died, it didn't so much depend on how close that person was to me. In hindsight, in retrospect, looking back over it and, just kind of looking back over the scenario, and you know what? My computer is buffering, so I'm just going to make sure that you guys aren't like looking at dragging. Because what I can do is I can pause when it buffers so that it's not distracting, because that's annoying. So yeah, so I can tell you that when people have died close to me, I cried sometimes, but I didn't always. And it wasn't always a matter of how close the person was to me. You guys know I got um, my noise canceling headset in always, you guys, even when I'm not listening to stuff. I cried sometimes, but I didn't always cry. And I can honestly say I think that it had more to do with what was going on at the time than how close the person was to me. And I'm saying that because I'm like really thinking back over the situation. And I tell people all the time, when stuff happens, like if you ask me my advice about a situation and I tell you, okay, perfect example. You dated somebody a long time ago and now they're back, right? And you tell me if I think y'all should get back together. I'm not answering that. I don't know them. Okay. Or you're in a relationship and you're telling me about it and you're asking me, if you're right or if they're, I can't answer that unless both people are in front of me. I can't tell you about them. I can only tell you about you. And then based on the things that you say to me, that's what I'm going to tell you. If you sound like you're being selfish, I'm going to tell you that you're being selfish. If that person is a dirty dog, it's up to you to give me all the information. Don't get mad because I told you were being selfish. And then after that, come back and tell me what a dirty dog person is. Because now I'm looking at you like you're just slinging mud because you want me to think differently when you ask me my opinion. And I'm actually going to give you my opinion based on what's best for you. If you were being selfish, I'm going to tell you to go apologize because I don't want to see you sad after you destroy your relationship. That's just how I think. That's why I'm the sugar-free coach, because I like my brain, the logic thing, right? So I'm doing it for my own self. I'm thinking back over the situations and I'm honestly trying to tell you whether I was like really like distraught and devastated when people died. And I'm honestly going to tell you that like most of the times I wasn't. Yeah. So the very first person, it was when I was like 14. And in my family, we have a really big family. And most of the people are older than I am. Most of my cousins are older than I am. Yeah. Like most of my cousins, my mom is the baby in her, family. So most of my cousins are older than I am. But I had one cousin that was like the same age as me. And she died when we were like 14. And then when I was in college, my very first college boyfriend, we broke up, and he went on with his life, and he wasn't very good to me. I mean, he was at first, but then people get older, they change, whatever. And so we broke up, and then we came back together, and we became like best friends. And that's why, in the time period, when you read this book, you'll see this time period, and I explain it more. But um, he died. And then there's like a whole list of other bunch of people, you guys. And up until now, so now we're older. So now, all my grandparents are gone, and uncles and aunts, and friends, and so on and so forth. And then I was in the military, and we've had several wars, and so when you hear people talk about PTSD, a lot of PTSD people talk about is not just from, oh, I was in a war and bombs were exploding all around me, but it's also because a lot of the people who were really close to me, they were there one day and they were gone the next. So I've experienced a lot of that. And so I want to talk to you guys about coping. And I can't read my own handwriting. It says coping and anger, and I don't know what that other word is, but I'm sure I'll get to it. But I talk a lot about stuff that I share with you all, and lately I have been hashtagging them Ask Me Secrets. And the reason I've been hashtagging them Ask Me Secrets is because a lot of people say, when you say stuff like, or when I say stuff, and it's common sense to me, and then I talk to someone who has good sense, and they're always like, well, Andrea, that's not just you. Everybody should think that way. And I'm like, well, how come they don't then, or whatever? And birds of a feather, and that's all fine and well, but some of the stuff that is like basic, I think, to people who aren't as emotional should be for everyone, because it would help a lot. It would help people a lot. There are people who experience all type of neurodivergences and mental issues, and psychological and brain functions, and all these different things that you want to call it. The psychology industry is, not really my best friend when it comes to this, because this is not mental illness. Having a neurodivergence is not the same thing as mental illness. It's not, okay? But whatever, they lump it all together. So but what causes mental illness for a lot of people who have neurodivergence is how they function in society and how they're treated. It can cause histrionic personality disorder. And, PTSD is kind of like on the borderline of mental illness, but it's not. It depends on what you have, how it affects you. So really, societal interaction and the people around you have a lot to do with it and can make or break. Eating disorders and alcoholism and hoarding, even all of this stuff can be mental illness, really. You can have a tendency towards something, but that doesn't mean that you give over into it. It doesn't mean that you can't learn self-care and self-control and all that sort of thing. So I'm just trying to help y'all with all this as I understand it from my own experiences. And I think that a little bit of Ask Me Secrets can help. I think that, first of all, being an autistic person and having to function in society and not being able to pretend to be normal can help people who are quote unquote normal, who feel left out sometimes. It's kind of like, big deal, I've always been left out. Well, guess what? It is a big deal to that person because they're not used to being left out. So ironically, it can be more devastating for a normal person to be cast aside than it is for someone who's always been cast aside. So, I can help you with that. How did I go through it? How did I overcome it? How am I still here today, still trying to do what I feel like I've been called to do and not being bitter and angry about it? And so, when you hear that, when you have the opportunity to learn from that, don't just take it and say, oh, it's easier said than done. No, it's not. It's not. It's not easy. It's not easier said than done, because the human brain is amazing. And once you make a decision to do something, you're going to do it. If you burn your hand on the stove, you didn't know it was hot, but you burn your hand on the stove, and I say, well, don't touch again, and you say that's easier said than done, I'm going to say you sound stupid. Don't touch the stove. You touched it before because you didn't know it was hot. But if you remember that the stove is hot and you purpose it in your mind, you're not going to touch it. If you don't want to get burned again and you're afraid that you might accidentally touch the stove, you're going to put a sign over the stove that says, do not touch, it's hot. Why can't we do that with everything else in life? Sometimes in classes, when I'm really good at a thing and then other people aren't so good at it, they'll make up all kinds of reasons why I'm better at it. Oh, you must have traveled all over the world. Well, no, I haven't. I was born abroad, but I haven't traveled all over the world. I just study really hard. If I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to stay up all night studying. Someone said to me the other day, because they were falling asleep on our conversation, and I was like, you're not that tired. I was like, why are you falling asleep mid conversation while we're texting? I don't believe you. I'm sorry. I understand human behavior. So I know that it's more likely that that person got in their feelings about what I said than it is that they fell asleep mid conversation, because you never fall asleep on any other conversations. You always want me to wake up and talk to you. But now, because I said something that you didn't like, and sadly, the thing I said was something to help them. Like, be careful about doing gifts on your phone, because that's probably why your phone doesn't work good. And sometimes they have code in them that can hack people. And I don't like people sending me gifts on my phone. And now I have to delete all of our text streams, whereas I probably would have saved them. But now I've got to delete them because you keep sending me gifts. The person got mad at me and whatever. But you didn't fall asleep. I know better. So just all of this is an example of what I'm saying. I'm just saying, if we spend more time, and this is an ask be secret, because we don't get emotional. We tend to take the information and learn from it because we're so busy trying to be normal, trying to mirror, especially the women. They say ask bees mirror others. So we're so busy trying to learn and trying to not be the outcast that we're focusing more on learning the rules than we are in getting in our feelings. Whereas most normal people just allow themselves to get into their feelings. And if we stop doing that, you can learn a lot more how to deal with a lot more things, like death, for example. If you don't want me to talk about death, and you don't want to learn anything about death, and you don't want to hear anybody talking about death, how on earth do you expect to be prepared for it when it happens? If you never are willing to talk about it. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be blindsided about anything. And granted, you're still going to be blindsided. Things are still going to happen out of your control. Things are still going to catch you off guard. You're still going to be shocked in life. But don't you understand that, like, the more prepared you are, the less things will catch you off guard? Like, do we want to be caught off guard by everything? Do we want to be blindsided every day? Do we want everything that we experience in our lives to be a shock, so we're never prepared for anything? No, we don't. So, like, the more things you can consider, like, how am I going to handle this situation if that ever happens to me? You know, um, we're going to talk about emergency preparedness and contingency planning. That's on day 4. That's tomorrow. So I'm not going to get too into this. But corporations, organizations, and companies, and this is another one of my lanes that I worked in corporate America, but contingency planning and emergency preparedness, that's something that people who are responsible for a whole lot of money have to do, because they can't afford to always get caught off guard. If it snows and there's a blizzard and the banks can't be open, is that going to be okay with you? Like, just because it snowed and you had a bill that you had to pay, or you didn't know it was going to snow, so you didn't buy your family groceries, you got this check from work and you don't have direct deposit, but now you can't go to the bank, you can't cash your checks, you have no money. Is that okay with you? It's not okay with you. And it's not only going to be you, it's going to be like all of their customers. So the bank can't allow that to happen. So that's why companies have contingency planning and emergency preparedness. And actually, if you go into a good company, and not just a good company, ones that are like governed by regulations and laws, like when they get audited, the auditors come in and say, where is your contingency planning kit? And you have to, everybody, they might ask like the new teller. Had it happen to me before. Of course, I passed, y'all, because I dot every I and cross every T, because that's what I did. But when they walk in the door and they ask the brand new teller that just started last week, where is your emergency kit? Where is your contingency planning kit? The brand new teller has to be able to tell them. You cannot walk into the mall and go in the district manager goes into the store or the mall has a fire drill, and just because you just started last week, it's okay that you didn't know where the emergency exit was or the fire escape. That's not okay, because Murphy's Law, anything that can happen will. I don't know about y'all, but I every time I'm in a training program and they're teaching you stuff and they go, oh, but you don't have to worry about this because it's never going to happen to you. I'm always like, let me write that down. Let me put an extra star by that. Because sure enough, on my first day, I'm going to get that phone call. And, people, when I say stuff like that, people like say, oh, well, yeah, that's because you said that. No, I say that because it started happening to me, nothing life. And I started realizing, do not listen to people when they say that. They put it in there for a reason. That's like, somebody recently was telling me a story about something where, they had to tell the people, okay, this isn't safe for you all, and how you all are handling this, you're putting your own selves in jeopardy. But after they finished telling the story, and I'm not going to tell y'all the story because it's their story to tell in their book, but this one is a doozy. But after he finished telling me the story, I was like, never mind all that. Did they not pay attention in their OSHA training? Because surely that's in the OSHA handbook. Y'all don't know what OSHA is. It's OSHA. If you've never worked in corporate America or around, even if you've never worked around any hazardous materials, your company probably has some type of OSHA training. But even especially if you worked in any type of medical field or hazardous materials or anything like that, you have to do OSHA training. And if OSHA finds out, or the CDC finds out that you're doing things that violate, you're going to get shut down because you're going to be the cause of like a natural catastrophe. You guys, if The Walking Dead breaks out tomorrow, it's going to be because somebody wasn't doing their job. Okay. So enough about beating that dead horse. But in case you haven't been with me, you know that this whole book and this whole journey that we're taking is all about not just sharing with you my experiences and what I've been through, because y'all know I don't like to cry about stuff. I mean, not that I'm scared to be vulnerable. I'm not, y'all. I'm not. I just, I have tried to keep it together for the sake of other people. So I do grieve. I do lean into my pain. If somebody breaks my heart, I cry about it, whatever. One time I got my heart broken and I laid on my grandmother's couch for a whole week crying about it. One time when I used to do this radio show and, my business partner decided we weren't doing it anymore, I cried about it for like days. You guys, I cry. I grieve. So I'm not saying like, oh, just be, whatever, stoic. Somebody told me I was a stoic. Stoic is a good term. I learned that, modern day stoicism, because what it basically means is that no matter what happens to you and no matter what you go through, you try to take it and use it for good and see what the good and what the silver lining in it. But I don't know about y'all. That's the only way I can get over stuff. The only way I can get past some of the stuff that I've been through is to try to look at what the good in it is, what came out of it, even death. If I die tomorrow, y'all, please look at what I left behind. Look at, what you learned from me or what you gained from me or what experiences, what I might have left. Don't just take it as like a bad thing. And even if somebody murders me, y'all, please do not be some of those people. I'm not taking anything away from anybody. Some horrible things have happened in this world. But where I'm concerned, do not riot, do not protest, do not get on the internet and start wishing death on the person who killed me. That is not what I want. Don't do it, because I'm going to come back and get y'all. I know God ain't going to let me, but I'm just saying, don't do that. That's not what I want my legacy to be. But so what I want y'all to get out of this tonight is planning and preparing for death. There are things that you can do. First of all, if you don't have a will, make one tomorrow, okay? It doesn't mean, law of attraction does not mean that you can't make your will, because if you make a will, you're focusing on dying. That is not what that means. You should be so confident, I guess the word is, that you're living your purpose and that you're going to leave it all on the field. That when I leave here, I want to make sure that I didn't have anything left to do. Like whatever it is that I have to do, I'm going to get it all out right now. I'm not going to let nobody scare me off of it. I'm not going to let nobody tell me that I'm not good enough. I'm not going to let the fact that my nails are not painted, hello, somebody, keep me from saying what it is that I need to say to help others, because at any moment it could be our last day. And just because you go sit down with a person and create a will does not mean that you're going against the law of attraction and you're attracting death. First of all, you can't attract death because there's plenty of people who wish they could have been gone a long time ago. And unless you take your own life, you're going to be here as long as you're supposed to be here, period. That's what this chapter is about. I'm still growing because I'm still here, okay? So clearly I still have more to do and I still have things that I'm learning. But make you a will. If you don't have anything, make your will to say what your last wishes are. But if you got some stuff, especially make a will. Because the last thing you want to do is to leave your family and your spouse and your children here fighting over stuff. Y'all, as a banker and as a realtor, as a coach, and as a human being, the stuff that I have seen is appalling and disgusting. Okay. You can read more about it in the book because I'm going to share our own personal experiences. But I'm telling you, unless you're trying to take the house that I live in, I'm not going to fight you over some stuff. I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it, period. You can have it all. Take it. I don't care. But as an individual, I don't want to leave that for people to do behind. I don't want to leave that on people. So make sure that you make a will and don't do it in a hurry and don't do it in a rush and don't do it with some jackleg attorney at the grocery store. Okay. Just go sit down with somebody. And you know what? You don't have to say, if you don't have money to pay, you don't have to go sit down with somebody. You guys, everything that I'm talking to you about over these 10 days, even if it's a legal document, you can go on the internet and you can download a template and you can fill it out. And guess what? Legalese is a barrier to entry, okay? If you ever studied literature or you ever studied Latin, that's where it comes from, okay? It doesn't mean that if you write it in plain English that it's not going to be a valid document. If you write your will in plain English and sign it and notarize it and seal it away somewhere, guess what? When you die, people are going to have to follow it. So don't fall for all of that other stuff. If you got money to go pay somebody, great, go pay somebody. But if you don't, just write one and clarify from, if you get incapacitated, what do you want to have happen? Do you want to be resuscitated if they have to put you on life support? Do you want to live? If you're in a coma for a year, for 10 years, y'all, this has happened to people. God forbid any of us should have to be in a coma for 10 years, y'all, but this has happened to people. If you are in a coma for 10 years, do you want them to keep you on life support for 10 years? Or do you want to die? Guess what? There are people who have come out of comas after 10 years. So you might want to think long and hard about that one. Me personally, I'm not going until it's time for me to go. That means if a doctor can resuscitate me, fine, resuscitate me. If and see, it's hard as I say this, but as I've said it, I don't want a big giant funeral. I just cremate me, whatever. If you could dump me out back, then I would be okay with that. I'm not into the whole, burials and funerals and all of these graves that we have taking up space in the world where people don't even have a place to live. I got issues with that, but whatever. That's my personal issue. I'm not taking nothing away from nobody else. But you really have to think about, if something incapacitates you, what happens? Do you want to be on hospice care? You got to think about all these types of things, because nowadays people are living longer, but they're not necessarily living quality of life. So chances are I'm probably going to get hit by a truck or something, because, and then the stuff I talk about, I don't know, y'all, somebody might try to take me out. So keep an eye on the Sugar-Free Coach. But as far as like sugar eating away at my body and me getting cancer, and then that's probably not going to happen to me. Sorry. We're going to talk about living sugar-free on, what day is that? That's tomorrow. That's day 3. So we're going to get more into that. We're going to get more into how you can make sure that as long as you're here, that you're at least cognizant and that you can function. You guys, I have a back injury, and as I'm talking to you tonight, it was very difficult for me to make it to here tonight. It was difficult because of the subject that I had to talk about. because it's touchy for me. I literally have had people dying around me since I was a child. And I'm injured from being in the Army. And everybody on TV right now is talking about these GI Bills. Well, how about I don't have that GI Bill because I got student loan repayment. I didn't even know I was eligible. Nobody told me. Oh, I should have just known. Well, how was I going to know? Who was going to tell me? While I'm researching all the other stuff that I research, I was supposed to research that too and go look at something that according to the papers that I signed and according to my orders, I'm not eligible for that because I got this. So why would I have gone to research this thing to see if maybe somebody changed their mind? I didn't know. Nobody at the VA told me. So now everybody's all in an uproar because people aren't getting their money for this thing. But y'all forgot about all the people who already weren't getting their money and all the people who are injured and, people who have children or just people who need eyeglasses and can't get them because, they can't get help from the VA. So I want to tell you right now, if you're a veteran and you need help doing your will, you need help planning your funeral services, you need help planning for your family after you're gone, you need help with your VA benefits claim. Did you know that, okay, first of all, the VA hospital and the Veterans Administration is not the same thing? That's the first thing. First thing, two different things. So be careful when you're slinging mud about who you're talking about. The VA, the Veterans Administration, that's responsible for paying out this money to all these people on this GI Bill that they're not going to get until January because they're using a 50-year-old computer. Y'all, that's older than I am. We didn't have computers when I was growing up. So the fact that the VA is operating on a 50-year-old computer is just mind-blowingly hilarious to me. Even if they were operating on a computer that was one of the very first ones that I ever used, it would be a dinosaur. But you're operating on one that's older than I am. But I'm not mad at them for that. Where is the money supposed to come from? Yes, the government has money, and yes, they spend money on drones and all of these jokes that Trevor Noah told the other night, but it's kind of like not really a laughing matter because I don't know who's worse, the people who are not paying these people their money or the people who think it's okay to get on national TV and laugh about it while they don't have the issue and they're sitting in their luxury mansions and got plenty of money and all of that. I don't think it's funny. And unless you're stroking a check to help, I don't understand how you can laugh about it and be so casual. But not only that, you're not getting involved enough to know that there's a whole huge percentage of other veterans who didn't get paid in the first place for their injuries. So I'm sitting here with a back injury. It's right here. I have a torn trapezius muscle, and I've had it, you guys. I was in the Army for almost 3 years, and I got the injury in basic training. So that lets you know. And now that was 20 years ago. So it's progressively gotten worse, and that's why I don't do like the same type of work that I used to do because I just can't anymore. But also, too, I feel like I'm aging backwards. I tell people all the time that I feel like discovering that I was at Aspie has made me more embrace it, which has made me less well adjusted because now I don't try as hard anymore. I'm just being myself. But you can go to your state's Department of Veterans Services for help, you guys. And I didn't know this at first. I was going to the VA, which is the VA hospital, which is where you go get treatment and see a doctor. And they have offices in the VA hospitals where they have veterans coordinators, right? So the veterans coordinators, and there's usually only a couple of them, they're there to help the veterans to get what they need so they can be serviced at the hospital. And then you have the Veterans Administration, different agencies, okay? And then you have your state's Department of Veterans Services. And then you have all of these other little organizations like the VFW and all these different things. These are all different organizations. They are not the same. So, when comedians make jokes like, oh, I have a 50-year-old computer, but we can spend all this money on drones. Well, you can't just take money from the Army and use it for the VA. That would be fraud. And when you vote and you vote for money to be spent in a certain area, they just can't take it and use it over here. You can't do that. That's why we got to be careful about the news that we watch and getting caught up in all the sensationalism because we're not really helping anybody when we do that. We're certainly not helping veterans to get help. Us ranting and raving about the president and laughing at comedians who are making jokes about why we can't get new computers at the VA and yet we have drones. That's not helping anybody because they're different agencies and you cannot commingle the funds like that. So just, you know, I'm an Aspie, so I have a hard time laughing at stuff that has deeper implications. Do you know what I mean? I laugh at individuals' foolery. Yes, I might make fun of a situation or tell a story or whatever, but this is like serious. This is, I don't know. So it was funny. I just had a hard time laughing. So just know, if you haven't gotten your claims benefits filed, if you don't have a will, if you're having a hard time coping with anything, if you're a veteran, go to your Department of Veteran Services for your state. That is a totally separate agency, and there are counselors there that their job is to hold your hand through the process. And after 20 years, like, that's the only way I ever got help. And I'm still waiting, by the way. So yeah, but they're different agencies. So let's just kind of be like, let's talk about it like the right way. Let's not just lump it all together and then act like we're helping people because we're not helping people when we do that. If you're not a veteran or a soldier, there are also still places that you can go to get help. Did you know that when you go to your county um, Department of Family and Human Services, that they have all kinds of support programs? And even if whatever it is that you need help with, they don't do, they can refer you to someone who does it. So, you don't have to always have money to pay for these things. And if you're like me, you might tend to like forget about something when it's something too big or that you can't manage, you can't do. But I'm asking y'all where this is concerned, not to do that. Dig in, lean into the pain, lean into the fear, and let's get some of these details taken care of so that so many people, can stop, being blindsided and, struggling. And then we want to blame the man when in reality, we didn't do what we were supposed to do to manage our own lives and to manage our own family and take care of people in our family. If you are a millionaire and you die and you don't leave a will, you left your children here to fight. What was the point of you working all your life to build up $1 million to take care of your family when in reality, you just left it to be torn apart? So let's don't do that. Let's create a will. And let's do not just a will, but if you have property or a home. And I think I'm supposed to talk about that on day 5. We're going to talk about estate planning. And I have some resources for you all. One of our TXNL members is an amazing realtor. He's a realtor in multiple states, and he has a whole program where he's helping people with estate planning. But also, we're going to talk tomorrow about emergency preparedness. But, definitely be considering not just a will, but a trust. I knew a family where recently the wife died and the husband kind of lost it a little bit. He didn't do any kind of self-care. He let the animals run over the house, and it kind of turned into a hoarder, and there was animal feces everywhere and all that. And his sister and brother were able to come in and get it resolved and take care of him. But the only reason they were able to do it the way that they did it and with the finances they did is because his wife had established a trust long before, like when they first got married. He didn't even know it existed. And so she took care of him, and so these are the kinds of things that we can do after we're not even here anymore, just to really, really take care of people. So establish a will, establish a trust. We'll talk more about estates tomorrow. You definitely want to do that. And living sugar free, how you can eat to make sure that you do, fall off a building or get hit by a truck and don't just die of like some ridiculous illness that we don't have to be suffering from in this world because of how we eat. Okay. The doctor's job is to sell medicine. The doctor's job is to sell technology. The doctor's job is to work at the hospital and do what the hospital tells them to do. Just like I told y'all the other day, everybody got to pay their bills. That is like always the number one excuse people give me for why they don't want to be the change and pay it forward. You got to pay your bills. Well, everybody has to pay their bills. So don't keep running to the hospital claiming to be sick and then mad that they find something wrong with you. They will. That's their job. There's something wrong with all of us. Every last human being on this planet can go to the hospital probably, and the doctors can find something wrong with you because we're not perfect. There are things inside of us that are, okay, for example, should I talk about that? Well, yeah, whatever, I don't care. Women experience, yeah, because y'all need to know. I'm sick and tired of topics that have to do with women being off limits because, ew, it's gross. Well, guess what? Yeah, it is gross, but it's something that most of us have to deal with all of our lives. And if you have a wife or a daughter and she's dealing with it, but it's an off limits topic, that's sad. So let's talk about yeast infections. First of all, they're caused by Candida. Candida is a bacteria, and again, we're going to get more into living sugar free tomorrow, but this is just one example of what I'm saying. Every month, unless you're past the stage of having your menstrual cycle, women have their menstrual cycle every month. Every month, the women in your family experience a period of time where they're in so much pain that if a man had to deal with it, he probably would be laid up in hospital. But not only that, it affects, you can have heat, even if you're not in menopause, you can have hot flashes. You are having major issues in your stomach, not just cramping, but like all of your digestive system can be messed up. Not just that we're crabby or whatever, because some of us aren't. Some of us have our emotions and our feelings in check. And some of us, you would never know that it was our time of month because we don't go around just lashing out at people. But it doesn't mean that you're not sad. And it doesn't mean that when you get home, you're not crying for no reason. And so this is something that women deal with. But also with that, you have a pH level in a woman's body that can be off and it goes up and down. Well, when you eat, things that are conducive to candida buildup, you're kind of like fostering the bad stuff. You're making your menstrual cycle worse, but you're also opening yourselves up to yeast infections, right? So what a yeast infection is, it's bacteria. And what happens, lots of times women will get them on the tail end of having the flu or bronchitis or upper respiratory infection or whatever. And then you go to the doctor and you get an antibiotic. And then that antibiotic, what that antibiotic does is it kills the thing that's causing you to be sick. But what it also does is it incapacitates the good bacteria that's keeping back a yeast infection. So these are like good bacteria. They're not bad bacteria. So just like that good bacteria, there are other things in our body that are questionable, if I could say it that way. They're not good, they're not bad, but they serve a purpose. If people have an issue with their stomach, sometimes people get things where they get like a tear in their stomach lining. And if the stuff that is inside of your stomach that digests your food leaks out into your body, oh my Lord, you are going to have hell to pay. It is not a pretty thing. If the stuff inside of your stomach, all of those acids got inside of the rest of your body, because it serves a purpose, but it's some deadly stuff. So that's another example of what I'm saying. So if you go to the doctor, they are going to find something wrong with you. They always can. But sadly, not only that, they might cause something to be wrong with you. I worked for a hospital one time, and I talked to so many patients that did that not annual. You're not supposed to do it annually. God, please don't do it annually. At a certain age, you do it, and then you do it like every 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or however long it is. I ain't doing it. But the gastro thing, yeah. Mm-hmm. How many people do you think I talked to that thing went wrong for? If you let somebody stick something metal inside of you, wherever they stick it, down your throat or any of the other places, how high do you think the chances are that hard, impliable, immovable piece of metal might accidentally hit something and rupture it? So I'm not saying don't go to the doctor, y'all do what you do. I'm just saying be mindful of always running to the doctor for every little thing. I know a woman who's sick and she swears up and down that the doctors are trying to kill her, but she keeps running to them. That's like, what are you doing, lady? I don't understand that. So, we have a history of experimenting on people in our society. As a psychology major, I had to sign papers that I would never, ever be part of anything that was similar to what they did in the Tuskegee experiment. Psychologists are not allowed to do experiments that are going to cause harm to their subject. But people still do it. So doctors take a Hippocratic oath and they're supposed to always try to save lives, but that doesn't mean that people aren't trying to get their money, trying to get paid, trying to feed their family, and therefore, the latest pharmaceutical drug that came out and they told them about it and this is what everybody's doing it, so they're pushing it, and now 3 years later there's a class action lawsuit on television telling you that, oh, you get to be a party to a class action lawsuit if you took this drug because your liver fell out. Guys, who gave you the drug? Your doctor did. Well, I'm not saying don't trust any doctors, but certainly find a doctor that has a clue about alternative healing. Certainly find a doctor that at least has a clue that to medicate something is not always the remedy for it. Certainly find a doctor that at least considers, telling you how you can up your vitamins instead of just immediately going in to cut on you. Please, at least make the effort. Don't tell me I'm crazy for telling you about candida and going sugar free just because you went to the doctor and they told you it wasn't true. Guess what? My doctor told me it wasn't true. When I first went to the doctor and told them that I heard that if I went candida free or sugar free to kill the candida in my body, that I would no longer have these constant upper respiratory infections, strep throat, sinus infections. You guys, when I was in the Army, I got the flu shot and I was on bed rest for 30 days. I'm not exaggerating. And if you were ever in the military, especially if you were in an infantry unit, you don't get to miss PT for anything. They don't put you on bed rest just because you got a cough. No, you have to really, really be sick. The doctor has to really, really think you're sick, or else you are not gonna miss PT, let alone be on bed rest. I was on bed rest for 30 days. Now, after that, they stopped giving that version of the flu shot. They totally changed the flu shot after that. And they said that the one that they were given before was making people sick. But it wasn't just that. It was the fact that I was candida infested. You can go look at my military pictures and see that I was twice the size I am now. But it was because of my immune system and because of all the candida inside of me. And why didn't everybody else get it? Well, it doesn't affect everybody the same. People's blood types are different. Food affects people differently. And maybe just because this was my calling, maybe I was the person that was meant to show and to share people. That's why it always affected me so harshly. But it really was true. And it really did happen. And I really was sick all the time. And then when I stopped eating sugar and I did the cold turkey thing, I'm not saying everybody has to do this. I'm not beating anybody over the head with it. I'm not a fanatic. When Thanksgiving rolls around, if my mama makes macaroni and cheese, I'm going to eat some. But if I eat some every day for a week or 2 weeks, trust and believe, I couldn't get on this show because I would have a big web in my chest and I would be sick. I don't have a choice in the matter. So I'm not saying I'm so great, okay? But if you go candida free and do the cold turkey thing, then it gets out of you. But the problem is that it comes back worse when it comes back. And my doctor told me it wasn't true. And I haven't been sick in 20 years. I don't get sick, period, at all. You could cough on me. I could drink after you. It doesn't matter. I don't get sick, period. Why was I sick all the time and now I never get sick, guys? But when I go and if I eat some sugar, if I have some ice cream right now, I can feel it. You can do the research. And again, I'm not going to get too into that because we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm just saying, don't always trust what somebody says to you just because they have doctor by their name. Find out what their agenda is and what they care about. Groceries. If you have people in your family that are sick, that are dealing with pneumonia and dementia and all of these things, especially as we start getting older, you guys don't just be like, oh, when they're old, I let them have whatever they want to have. Okay, well, that's like letting your child have whatever they want to have, even though it's not good for them. If you care about a person, you don't just let them have their way. I'm not saying that we can force people to do anything. But do you know how many times I've had conversations with sick people? I have conversations with their family members, and I tell them what they can do to help their sick loved one get better. And they say, oh, they're not going to listen to me. Oh, I'm going to let them do what they want. And then I have the conversation with the sick person, and then they go, oh, yeah, oh, absolutely, I want to do that. It's kind of like how when people tell me that, oh, I didn't tell you that you were wrong because I didn't want you to get mad at me. It's like a cop-out. It's like a selfish cop-out when you have the opportunity to save somebody's life, but you don't even try because you're afraid that they're going to be mad at you. But then if you get mad at somebody, you say all manner of foolishness to them. Y'all ask me secrets. Tell the truth all the time and let the chips fall where they may. Don't say nothing if you don't have nothing nice to say. Okay, great. Go with that policy. But if you're going to open your mouth and say something, let it be the truth. Don't get mad at people and say all manner of stuff about them that's not even true just because you're mad. But when you're not mad at them, you won't tell them the thing that's true to save their life. Okay? If you have a person in your family that has pneumonia or dementia, or they got achy bones or joints, or they are always in pain, always whatever, go in your refrigerator and throw away all the milk and all the cream and all the cheese and everything else that has a large amount of sugar in it. They gonna get mad, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they won't get mad. Yeah, sometimes they do. I had a lady that I had a conversation with, and she was really sick, and she was an athlete. She was a great athlete. She's like a world-class athlete with awards and stuff. And her sister is experiencing some like mental dementia. And I told her that both of you all will get better if you guys stop drinking this vitamin D milk and get rid of all this crap that you're fried chicken. You guys, fried chicken is sugar. It got flour on it. All bleached white products, all that. I'm going to talk about more because I said a lot, but it's so much more to tell y'all. Okay. If I don't make it on the air tomorrow night, y'all come looking for me. But go in your refrigerator and throw everything away and go buy some fruit and go buy some meat and vegetables. Fruit is sugar, but in moderation. It's like, okay, so fruit is meant to be our dessert, our treat, not cookies and candies. So if you eat meat and vegetables mostly and you have a piece of fruit every now and then, it's not going to kill you. But if you say, oh, I'm going to eat healthier and all you're eating is fruit, you're not doing any better than what we're talking about. Okay. Get rid of the cream in your coffee. Coffee is good for you if you have a lot of congestion and all that up here, but not if you put milk and cream in it. Counterproductive. God, please. Okay, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow, but before we get to tomorrow, if I don't make it on tomorrow, if something happens, please do not. If you are remotely trying to do this and get right with your diet, stay away from apple cider vinegar. Anything with vinegar in it turns to sugar in your body. And tomorrow night, I'm going to tell you about all the different kinds of sugars. And you can do the research yourself and do a little bit of scientific study. Most of us didn't do too well in science. That's why we don't know this stuff. But also, too, we had the attitude that how's that going to help me in life? Well, it would have helped you to survive and be a little bit healthier. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow as well. But clean out all that stuff in your refrigerator. And so for the last few minutes, I just want to talk more about these this claims benefits and also the Social Security. I don't need my notes anymore because I'm at the end. So I had a friend who, and you guys, whenever I say I had a friend, it's because I've known a lot of people in my life who have come across my path, but they don't stay around because they just can't take the sugar-free coach. And when I say they can't take it, sometimes they run away, but sometimes I tell them to kick rocks because y'all, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I'm not here to be anybody's punching bag. I only want to talk to you about this stuff if you want to listen to it. I'm not here to beat anybody over the head or force anybody to do anything. I'm not trying to tell anybody to be like me. I'm not going to twist your arm. I'm not going to have the conversation with you more than once. If you're sick and every time I see you, you're sick, depending on the type of person you are, I might have just said, okay, well, don't eat any sugar or dairy until you're better. And then I'm going about my business because I'm sick of arguing with people. But if you ask me, I will elaborate because that's my reasonable service. That's my obligation. I have to. I don't have a choice in the matter. But if you argue with me about it and talk to me like I'm stupid, I'm going to treat you like a crackhead because sugar is the crack of the food industry. And how many of y'all know that you can't drag a crackhead off a crack? I'm not qualified. I'm not a licensed therapist. I am not a PhD yet. I haven't graduated. And I am not qualified to drag a crackhead off of crack. A coach is a person that helps people who want to be helped. You have to already want it before I can really help you. If you want it and you're just going to make me the scapegoat, I'm not bringing you in my house so you can steal my money to go buy crack. And if you made it into my house, like some kind of way next to me, and I thought that you were going to be a change agent and you were going to be the change and all that, and I thought that you were down for this movement, and then it turns out that you weren't, I'm going to show you the door because I'm a good steward. And I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to the world. I have a responsibility to myself for, self-awareness and self-care, that I can't, what I'm doing right now with you all, the reason I haven't done it more over the years is because I've had too many people next to me sucking the life out of me. That's why I don't do it anymore. That's why I don't do Facebook anymore like that. That's why I'm like more of an introvert than I've ever been, because when I have people right next to me that are sucking the life out of me, that I have to argue with what I'm telling y'all right now, how do you think I have the energy to get on the internet and do a talk? I barely even got my hair done that day. So I will tell you after a while to kick rocks, because you're taking up valuable time from what I'm supposed to be doing for a larger audience. And that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's why I don't have a boyfriend. That's why I'm not married, because, a lot of the people that I have come across, they're too needy. And in being needy, they don't want to be the change. They don't want to stand by me and help me to help others. They just want to stand by me and suck all the life out of me and let me give all of my love and all my energy and all my attention to them, and then argue with things that are common sense. I'm not doing that. I find out very early on. Nowadays I do, but I didn't always. And so when I say I had a friend, just know that I had a friend. They ain't my friend no more. I'm a friend to many, but I don't have a lot of friends, because they want to pretend like they're part of the team. They want to pretend like they're, down for being the change. And we are the solution, hashtag we are the solution, hashtag TXNL. That's serious. The organization that I'm a part of, even though I don't lead it anymore, I have an obligation to those people to not be like, oh, hey, meet this person. They're part of the team now. And then that person is sucking the life out of all of them. I can't do that. I read a scripture like about maybe, let's see, we've been doing this for a little over 10 years. So maybe it was about 7 years ago. And I don't even remember which one it is, but I have it tagged. I read it every so often. I'm not good at recalling scriptures, y'all. I'm not a preacher. That's not what I do. But it talked about how if you build up something and you claim to be doing it for God, and then you just let people take advantage of all the widows and the children, that God is going to wipe it down to nothing. You have to start all over. I was like, oh, well, that won't be me. I'm not a preacher. I am not nobody's pastor. I have no intention on being a preacher, anybody's pastor. I do build kingdom business. And that means you don't have to be a Christian. You don't have to believe what I believe, but you do have to be doing right by others. You do have to be the change, and you do have to care about setting an example. So how are you going to be standing next to me, or I'm calling you my best friend or my spouse, and all you're doing is being selfish or trying to take advantage of people? You can ask anybody. You can ask any of my ex-boyfriends. Some of them might tell you that's why they got kicked to the curb. I have no problems telling y'all that. So when I say I had a friend, that's what I mean, okay? And I had a friend who, she went to the Social Security office and was trying to get her Social Security. And the man at the counter, like, treated her like she didn't have a right to be in there. Just because, hey, beautiful, I love y'all. Just because I managed to get my hair together somewhat, just because I washed myself and, my ring that my mom gave me, or, I got my GI bracelets on, just because I know how to put myself together with the clothing that I have. I'm not at the mall buying $500 outfits, but just because you see me and I look like I'm wearing a $500 outfit doesn't mean that you get to judge my pain or my need. There's a lot of people, not just veterans, but people in our society, period, who are struggling just to hold it together. Their children, their families, you don't know what people's experiences are and what people are going through. So if you work in one of these offices and somebody comes in there and they need help, and you treat them like they don't have a right to be in there just because they look nicer than what you think they should look, shame on you, you know? But like we talked about last night, be mindful that when you go into these places, that's how people might treat you. Now, I'm not of the agreement that you should go to the VA playing crazy or looking busted. I'm not of the mindset that you should go to the welfare office looking more broke than you. No. If you're a Christian, the Bible says that when you're fasting, put some oil on your face so people don't know you're fasting. I liken that to the same thing. I never know who I might meet. I never know whose life I can change or encourage. Now, don't get me wrong. I do leave the house in my onesie all the time. Y'all have seen me in my onesie. If you really know me, you've seen me in it. But I don't, like I said the other night, I don't have no shame in getting my game. I've posted pictures of myself with my pink sponge rollers on the internet. I don't care. I want people to know how you get your hair like this. It's not that hard. And you put some sponge rollers on it and make sure you use end papers. Okay. But also, too, my onesie is warm. It got hearts all over it and it zips up in its fleece. I wish it had feet in it. If I find one with feet in it, that's a wrap. But I do. I leave my house in my onesie all the time. But if I'm going to an office to conduct business, I'm going to put some clothes on and I'm going to do my hair and be presentable. Okay. Because for what? Why do I need to overly try to make somebody feel more sorry for me than what they already? I'm not doing that. I'm not sorry. And so if I have to look pitiful and poor and broken, disgusted in order for you to take your job seriously and help me, then guess what? You're wrong. But I have been in situations, at the VA or at the Family Department Services offices or wherever else, and therapy offices and whatever. And I have talked to people who are inspired by me because I managed to put myself together in spite of all that I'm going through. And what you don't know, you don't know that the person just because they work there is not going through something. You don't know, and this is a big point. I'm so glad I didn't forget this, and that might be what that word was, but when I couldn't read my own writing. If you manage an office, if you manage one of these kind of offices we're talking about, the VA or the Social Security office or the Family and Children Services office or the bank or whatever, just because you have employees that work there and they get a paycheck does not mean that they're not going through hard times too. So when you treat people like dirt on your job and you cause them to then treat their customers like dirt, you're part of the problem. You never know. You never know what people are going through. You never know. Maybe they didn't tell you that their spouse was a veteran and they just got deployed and they're trying not to lose their job because you're mean. So through their tears and getting it together, they came to work anyway. And then you're doing some old nasty manner of whatever to them. We are all part of the solution. All of us. How you treat people on your job, how you treat people when they're standing on the other side of the counter, and as the individual, how you take care of your family, doing things like getting your will together, getting your trust together, getting your family estate together. Maybe, people are like, oh, I made everybody else. No, maybe if you made it and you lay the foundation for the next generation or for other people in your family to make it, then we can actually start to change and we can start talking about how things run in the family other than just family curses. Okay. This is going to take all of us. It's going to take us to stop shaking our head at politicians and tisk, tisk, tisk at the president and running to the doctor every 5 minutes and believing everything they say until 3 years from now when they got a class action lawsuit because they sold you a deadly poison. It's going to take all of us. Don't just take some medicine without reading the daggone warning label. How many people did they kill before they gave it to you? Because they always do trials and studies. Find out what the statistics are. Take time. This is all of us taking responsibility for ourselves, but also being our brother's keeper. Take responsibility for the next man. If you have some change in your car and you got plenty of money, why you can't stop at the light and give it to the homeless man? Just because you think he might go buy alcohol. Well, that's not A, for you to say. You don't know what they're going to do with it. But B, it's not your business. Just do a kindness. Pay it forward. Little stuff, you guys. So I'm going to stop beating that dead horse right now. But just claims and benefits. Just know that it's not just the VA. And the Veterans Hospital and the Veterans Administration is two different things. But please, 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 if you know anybody who's a veteran, you guys, if you're a police officer, don't just round people off the street and throw them in jail. If you keep seeing the same homeless person and you find out that they're a veteran, shame on you if you keep seeing the same homeless person and don't know that they're a veteran, but you think you might be able to go take them over to the Veteran Services Office and get them some help so you can stop arresting the same person all the time. I saw a magazine one time. I was in a police station to get my car out of impound. That's a whole nother story from somebody that got my car impounded. But I saw the stack of magazines and I was like, oh, it was like a heroes magazine. Oh my God, this is so cool. It had police officers. Y'all know I'm savvy. It had like police officers and firemen, but it also had soldiers and airmen in it. And I was like, wow, what an amazing resource to bring all these people together. And it's in the police station. So I start flipping through it and it has all the stuff I'm telling you, like this magazine has. It has like about the veteran services and the VFW. And you guys, there's a lot of organizations where veterans can get help, y'all. Some of them ain't worth the paper that their organizational thing is written on, but whatever. You have to sometimes go through several, but you can ask around. But it had all this stuff in there, and it was still sealed up with the plastic. You know how magazines and newspapers come sealed up with the thing around it? It still was sealed up. So I broke it and opened it and took one. So I'm sitting there reading it, and I couldn't get my car out that day. I had to come back the next day. And so before I left that day, because y'all know me, I don't care, or whatever. Everybody think I talk too much, but if I have something to say to you, I'm gonna say it. So I asked the police officers if they had ever read the magazine before, and they said no, they didn't even know what it was. So I gave them one and put it in their hand when they were walking out the door. They looked at me like I was crazy, but whatever, I don't care. Maybe it'll impact them somehow. So the next day comes around, I come back to get my car out of impound. I happen to see the same police officer. So, I asked him if he took a look at the magazine. And of course, he told me that he didn't. He was like, he had worked long hours and he probably did. Bless his heart. Why y'all working these police officers like dogs, but yet we want police officers to act better, but whatever, anyway. But it wasn't the fact that he didn't read it. It was the fact that he kind of laughed at me like I was stupid. That was the issue, because that let me know he wasn't gonna read it. But why are you a police officer? And I know, because I know that the highest growing rate of homeless people is veterans. I know that a large percentage of the people in jail are veterans. So if you're a police officer, how come you don't know that, or you don't care? How come you don't care that I'm telling you this is a resource that you can actually help veterans instead of just always rounding up the same veteran off the street? Why don't you care? I'm gonna need for y'all to care. And maybe I haven't listed your profession. Maybe you do something that I haven't even listed. Take it upon yourself to apply everything I'm saying. Find out how you can do more to help people. Don't let it just not be your job. Okay. Find out what resources you can give people in your profession to help them improve themselves, get help, get resources, because there is help available. Veterans do not just have to fight VA by themselves. You guys, there are champions at whatever your state's Department of Veteran Services are. I've met some of them, and these people are champions. And when I tell you some of them could care less, and they're just there for whatever the title. But a lot of them, they go to bat for veterans. I mean, you guys. So if you don't know this, if you didn't know this, go find out about the Department of Veteran Services in your area. Even if you're not a veteran, even if you don't have any veterans in your family, don't just sit up and laugh at Trevor Noah on TV cracking jokes about the VA. You gotta sit there and shake your head and tisk the government and foolishly let him tell you that, oh, we got money for drones. Why can't we buy a new computer for the VA? Fool, because the money does not go to the same place, and your tax dollars can't just be moved around wherever we want to move around to. The VA's money is the VA's money. The armed forces money is the armed forces money. Money goes where it's allotted to go, and you can't just do that. But what you can do is take time to find out about the Department of Veteran Services in your area or whatever. You guys, veterans are all of our problem. If somebody blows up the building that you work in tomorrow because they went postal because they're sick of this, guess what? Then it's going to be your problem. So, hello, what you put out into the world is going to come back to you. So take time to find out. Take time to balance some of this foolishness that you see on the news and that you see in Hollywood. Be the change. Take time to tell somebody else. So, I shared a lot of tips and resources of how you could get your own family together and how you could, make sure you prepare your family for loss and death and illness, and how you can not have your family be completely baffled and befuddled when you die. But also, too, think about the next man, okay? We wouldn't have armed forces if there weren't people who were willing to sign their life over and leave their families at the risk of death to go off and fight wars that you don't want to fight and I don't want to fight, okay? So let's look out for them. I'm not asking you to do nothing for me, because I got this. I went to the Department of Veteran Services, and I do have an angel, and I'm believing that it's going to work out. And I got a book coming out, and if you can read all about my experiences in the book. But in the meantime, over this next 8-day journey, I'm going to try to share with you some things that I have learned, some things I have seen, and how you cannot go through the same stuff I went through. If you have a child going into the military, I don't discourage that. I don't tell you, oh, don't let them join up because I had an experience that I had. No. Do they have other options? First of all, I want to know. Are they going to a college? Do they have a bright future? Do they have a vision for what it is they want to do in life? Do they have a smart plan for college? Can they afford it? Because if not, maybe going in the military is an alternative for them if they're already considering that. I don't tell nobody to go into the military that's not already considering it. But y'all don't know. Next year we might have a draft. Who knows? You can't say what's going to happen in this world. So just, I'm trying to share some things that you can do to be safe. Get things in writing. And the first thing you need to get in writing is a will. But if you're going to go off and join the military, or you know somebody that is, everything that they told you that you're supposed to get, make sure you get it in writing. And that goes for everything. Going to college, jobs, everything. Get it in writing. If you don't have it in writing, it didn't count. It ain't true, and they ain't gonna do it. Okay. So if you if you have a veterans claim, if you are injured or you have PTSD, you guys, there's people who served in the military who don't even know that they qualify to go to the VA hospital and be seen. If you're a veteran, you can go to the VA hospital, period. If you have a family member, and I know everybody listening has a family member who served in the military, you would not believe how many people that I've met, people who have served longer than I did and who are older than I am. So we're around during some of the really, really, and who went to some of these new wars, and they don't know because they didn't serve all of their time, or they had to leave earlier, they didn't retire, they didn't know they could go to the VA hospital. Even if you don't have a claim filed, even if you don't have a disability rating, you can still go to the VA hospital, and there are certain things that they'll do for you. So if you're a veteran and you don't have some wonderful job afterwards, and you don't have fabulous insurance and whatever, go to the VA hospital, get registered, and get seen. Again, I'm not telling y'all to go run to the doctor every 5 minutes. I'm just saying, some of us can't see good. I got my glasses free at the VA. Now, the reason I'm wearing reading glasses right now, you guys, is because these glasses right here are my glasses that I first got. And I can walk around and I can see in them, but I can't see up close because they did my prescription wrong. So I got another pair of glasses that I can walk around with and I can see up close. But through everything that we've been through over the past couple of years, I left them somewhere. Well, at first I broke them and I did the nerd thing and wrapped some tape around them, and I was walking around with tape on my glasses. I don't care. There's no shame in my game. Whatever, I can see. But then, because they didn't fold up when I had to take them off and lay them down because I couldn't do this with them. That's how I hold on to my glasses anyway. I left them somewhere. So I don't have my glasses anymore. So now I'm wearing reading glasses just so I can see and function and read the stuff I need to read, because the VA lost my prescription. They don't have my prescription on file. So now I have to go get a whole new checkup and all that kind of stuff, even though it's not time. And where I'm at right now, they don't have a VA hospital. So I have to drive like 2 hours. So yeah, these are the things that veterans have to deal with, y'all. It's no joke. So don't take it lightly, and don't just laugh at comedians when they say dumb stuff about it's just dumb. Anyway. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Andrea in the Morning. Did you know? Okay. Did you know that if you were a veteran, you get to go to the VA hospital? Did you know that it doesn't matter how much money you have, you need a will? Did you know that if you have a little bit of money, you definitely need to have a will, but you also need to have a trust? There are things that you can do for contingency planning to make sure that your family is taken care of after you're gone. And you should do, because you never know what might happen. Of course, I'm Andrea Raquel, the sugar-free coach and social entrepreneur, and first female voice of the old guard. It's always my pleasure to speak with you all. I hope that you got something out of it. Anything that I can do to help you win, that's what I want to do. And so if you have questions and you didn't get to post them in the chat, send them. We'll try to include them tomorrow. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And share, and then also make sure you join us. If you want to get a signed copy of my book, go ahead and go to sugarfreecoaching.com, go down to the bottom and send us an email so we can have your email information. And at the end of this 10-day journey, we can go ahead and get you your book and your discount code. I hope I've been valuable to you all this evening. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to my wonderful business manager. Thank you so much to my wonderful sweet friend that came on to see me, and all the rest of you Living Sugar Free sweethearts who've been with me on this journey. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for letting me do what I do. And you all take care. Happy hump day. Shake it off, shake it up, and keep it moving. We cannot let these things in life get us down. So whatever we can do to first lean into the pain, learn from it, and then overcome it and help somebody else win. That's what the Living Sugar Free journey is all about. I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow for day 4 of Did You Know on this road to Living Sugar Free Revealed. And you all take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.